Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode in this mini-series of tutorials regarding integrating Steamworks.net in your Unity game. My name is Mike, I work for In Principle Inc. and I am the developer of OVO Smash, a game that is due to be released on the 10th of October 2017 on the Steam platform. It's a casual party game that mixes memory match mechanics with deathmatch mechanics. Alright, so let's get started. Today we are going to be talking about achievements, everyone's favorites. Alright, so let's get started, and the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go into our Steamworks on the website. I'm going to log in here. As I've mentioned in the previous tutorial, I'm not going to cover how to get your game here, so that'll be your problem. We're going to go into OVO Smash, and we're going to scroll down and go to Community Presence, Achievements, and we're going to click there. Okay, so when you first open this particular page, this is completely empty. There is nothing there. And you can click on the New Achievement button. When you click on the New Achievement button, sort of a row populates itself, and you need to upload a locked achievement picture, an unlocked achievement picture, and then a title and a description. Okay, and you're also going to have to give it some kind of unique ID. Now, this is pretty laborious. You're going to have to take your time doing this. As you can see, I've already done it for all 50 of my achievements. One guideline that Steam has for you as a developer is that you want to make it so that the achievements that are locked look less shiny, so to speak, or colorful than the ones that are unlocked. So they often suggest grayscales and that sort of stuff. Now, I tried to put effort in making mine, so I made them a little bit blander, yes, but I still went for the same color scheme. It's really up to you how you do it. There's also an option to make them secret, by the way. All of my achievements, I have left them not secret. At any rate, once you're done with this entire list, we can we know the Steam has this information. So what we're going to learn how to do today is how to extract these pictures from Steam, for example, and use them in our game. We're going to learn how to unlock achievements, how to lock achievements, and all of that good stuff directly from our Unity game. Okay. One thing that I also want to bring to your attention is this ID that you don't control. This sets itself by default, and you'll notice that it's got a 1 and then a 0. The 0 then increments all the way until it reaches 31, and then it resets and it goes to 2 and then a 0. So it's as if we had banks of 32 elements, which makes sense from a power of 2 perspective. But it's relatively interesting because you'll see these numbers will reoccur later. Right? Okay, so let's move on now. Let's go to Unity. So the first thing that I have done in Unity is I have created a Steam Achievements object, and I've given it a new script which I have written called Steam Achievements, and it's a script, right? I've made it into a singleton, by the way. One thing I should also mention that is rather important is that my game already had an achievement system within itself. So I can leverage that achievement system and I can make it work together with the Steam achievement system. And I have an entire menu just for that, okay? So I'm going to show you now as soon as I click play. Actually, let me take a look here. Maximize and play. All right, that's fine. So I'm going to hit play. Okay, and OVO Smash is going to begin. It's going to load for a bit. There we go. Okay, so it's doing its thing, and I want you to notice that my Steam, now I'm green, and I'm playing OVO Smash. That's from the previous tutorial. Check it out. Okay, so let me go back to Unity here. Okay, so it's doing its thing. I'm going to skip the intro. I'm going to click to play. I'm going to go into the profile. And then I'm going to go into achievements. And right here, you see what it says. It says hover on one of the achievements, which are these squares on these parallelograms. There you go, on the right. And there's an empty spot here. That's where the picture is going to appear. So when I hover on one, we should expect to see a bronze band-aid. And we do. If you notice, there has been a bit of a delay. That is because we are going to collect that image directly from the Steam server, so it takes a little bit to load it, okay? And so on. This applies to all of them. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to talk about how to do today. Okay, so I'm just going to stop the code here. Now, as I told you last time, you see I'm still green, I'm still playing OVO Smash, okay? That's the thing that you need to be aware of when you run things directly from the player. Alright, so let's open Steam Achievements in Visual Studio, and we're gonna take a look at what we have. So first let's take a look at the various variables. So first of all, we have a singleton here. I called mine script, okay, which I assign in awake, as expected, I suppose, okay? And you may not have this, right? I'm just sort of trying to explain how it is that my game works. Now, I have a material where I'm going to map the texture that I collect from Steam, okay? When you go to Steam to query and get an image, you get raw data, okay? You get a stream of bytes. And you need to convert that into a pic. Now, once you have a picture, you can then use it as a sprite or anything like that. In my case, I have an object, a 3D object, to which I slap on that texture. That's why I'm using a material. You can ignore a button, and the texture 2Ds here are both public, and they are used when I can't log into Steam to get that information, so I'm going to display a question mark. Rather, this is the one, I'm sorry. And this is the initial one, so the black square, sort of the empty square that appears when you haven't selected anything. And it only appears the first time you enter that menu. Now, these are important variables. We have an int. The first thing that you do is you ask Steam which picture you're looking for. And when you do that, it returns an int, which is sort of an ID of the picture. It's as if every one asset that you uploaded to Steam that has to do with your game had an individual unique ID, and this is how you can get it back. Now, as I was telling you, it gives you back a stream of data, not an actual texture or an actual file. Okay, so we're gonna need uints for the width and the height of the actual picture. Then I also have a boolean to check if an achievement has been unlocked. Okay, and everything else is pretty much irrelevant. So let's move on to awake. It's pretty important. So like I said, I assigned a singleton, and then I check something. I check if the Steam Manager has been initialized, or rather hasn't been initialized. Then I will set this script to false, to inactive. Okay, so I'll disable this one too. And then I return, which is a little redundant, but it's fine, it's no big deal. You know, sometimes us programmers, we forget things. Anyway, this is probably giving me a pretty decent segue to also show you something that I kind of neglected to show you last time. If you go to Edit, Project Settings, Script Execution Order, you'll find something very important. The execution order of all of your scripts in your project. Now, you'll notice that I put Steam Manager right on top, Steam Language, which we're going to talk about in the next tutorial, and Steam Achievements. So they're all in a row, okay? All of the Steam related stuff, I just get it out of the way right away in the beginning. And that's great, because it allows me to make absolutely sure that I can reach Steam successfully before any other stuff of my game is launched. All right, so let's go back to the code. So, Steam Achievements, let's take a look at the functions here, or methods. So, I've got a few public ones. I've got unlock Steam achievement, and you need to feed it a string. Now that's fairly interesting. Which string do you feed it? Now I'm gonna show you exactly this string over here. So if I wanted to unlock achievement 00, I would feed it this unique string, achievement 00, not this ID, okay? Let me go back to the code. All right. And let's see what it has. It's fairly easy. So first of all, I test if the achievement has been unlocked by feeding it the same string ID. Okay, so let's go and take a look at this particular test. It's just a small query. It goes to Steam user stats. Now, where do I get this from? Well, this class is obtained from the Steamworks library using Steamworks. Okay, so this library is comes right along with steamworks.net, so you can access it, and it has all sorts of cool neat little things, like for example Steam user stats, or rather yeah, Steam uses stats. So I'm gonna get the achievement, I feed it the string of the ID, right? So in my case, achievement 00, for example, and it's going to spit out a Boolean. So I populate unlock test with it. That's why I call this function every time I want to check the status of an achievement, right? So now unlock test has been populated. If unlock test is false, so the achievement has not been unlocked, then I'm going to set achievement and feed it the string ID. Okay, so that's how you in fact unlock an achievement. Set achievement is the command you call to unlock it. Now this is a very, very interesting command. Okay, store stats. Now if you do not run that particular function, what's going to happen, you'll notice, is that your game is going to unlock every achievement that you have unlocked after you've closed the game. That's how it's going to work. And the reason why this is happening is because it stores those stats within the API. So within the Steam client, it's going to run that operation outside of your game. Do you understand? Now, you want to do it right after you have unlocked an achievement, because that way, what Steam Manager is going to do is in its update, it's going to run the Steam API callbacks. So it's going to query the Steam API and tell it, hey, did you notice that the stats have changed? And the Steam, I mean, I'm obviously turning this into human language here for you, but Steam is going to go, oh yes, I did notice. And it's going to spit out that lovely little pop-up we all like with the achievement that says, hello, you've unlocked it. All right, so that's the kind of thing that we want. Let's go back to Steam achievements now. Okay, so another thing that I have, you'll notice that all of my debug stuff is very, very clearly demarcated with a huge debugging caps, right? So lock Steam achievements, let's take a look. I don't know why I call it Steve every now and then, it's like we're buddies. So again, I'm gonna test it. Now this time, if it is unlocked, I'm going to then clear the achievement, which means I'm going to relock it. Now, obviously, this stuff is not possible for our users to do. Okay, so you must make absolutely sure that it's in your debug features. Next, get Steam achievement status. This is a public bool, and it's just going to return unlock test after it's been assigned. This is for external use. Like I was telling you, I already have an achievement system, and there is another script that deals with it. Now, let's go to the meat and potatoes. Let's actually talk about how do we get that picture out of Steam. Okay, so we're gonna need some kind of process that cycles, that reoccurs a number of times. We cannot simply have a single function that is called once. And the reason why we can't have that is because it takes time to load the picture from Steam. So you need something that checks, hey, have you got a picture, Steam? And Steam is going to say no for a bunch of times. And then after it says yes, you go like, awesome, I can now continue. I can now use that picture somehow. Okay, and a coroutine is perfect for us. And I've created this one called get achievement icon. And again, it needs that string ID. It needs to be fed a string ID. All right, let's open it up. Now, if you're not sure what a coroutine is, there's tons of tutorials out there, great tutorials that you can look up. But essentially, a coroutine is a very, very cheap way of doing something that reoccurs several times. And a typical structure of a coroutine is that you have a while loop of some kind that checks if a certain condition is satisfied, and if it's not satisfied, if it is satisfied, then it keeps on yielding a null. And as long as it returns a null, it's going to repeat itself within these steps, and it's going to continue. It's quite nice. Anyway, like I said, if you're interested in coroutines, you can look it up yourself. So I have I immediately assign my icon int to 0. Now 0 is the default value for I haven't found a picture that Steam is going to return. So essentially the pictures and the assets, I'm guessing, within Steam are not 0 based, they're 1 based. And 0 represents I haven't found information. Okay, so, and the second thing that I do is I quickly create an int called counter. Now, why do I do this? It's because I want to abandon the while if it takes too long. So I assume, I haven't actually tested this, so I'm just going to admit this outright, but I assume that this will help me avoid problems if I have no connection to Steam. So I'm going to attempt 2,000 times, which is probably excessive, but anyway, I was very generous with the number. And if counter exceeds 2,000, then I just give up. Okay? So, excuse me. All right, so every cycle, well, we're going to check something. First of all, we're going to check that icon int is still lower or equals to 0. And we're also going to check that the counter is lower to than 2000. If either of these conditions is in fact broken, we exit the while and we continue with the rest of the code. So what are we doing here? Well, we assign the icon int by querying the achievement system, by asking for its icon, feeding it the string ID, so achievement underscore 00, for example. Okay, now like I said, this is gonna stay 0 until it actually finds the complete data and returns a number, whichever one it is, it doesn't much matter, it's a number. And every cycle I'm gonna make the counter go up. Now, in my experience, it takes about 17, 18, 19, 20 cycles to find the pick. So, like I said, I've been very, very generous with this number. Anyway, now we exit the while for whatever reason, and now I check if the icon int is lower or equal to 0 again. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's very possible that it's still 0, but the counters run out. Okay, so if the counters run out, then and the icon is lower or equal to 0, then I assign my material. I set the texture, in my case on my shader it's called icon text, texture underscore Steam no connection, which is one of the variables up here. Okay? And one interesting thing, and you'll understand why this is necessary later, I also have to set the texture scale to 1:1, which means all standard. So 100% size horizontal, 100% size vertical, everything's fine. Now, like I said, you'll understand soon why I had to do this. Okay, now let's check the else. So the icon int is in fact a different number than 0. All right, so we're gonna use another function in Steam utilities this time called getImageSize. And like I said, we need to get the size. The icon width and the icon height are going to be our outs of this function, and we feed it the int that we obtained. So let's say our ID is 7, we feed it 7, and it returns, say, 256, 256, assuming it's 256 pixels wide and tall. It's going to be a square, most likely. Okay. Anyway, so here I have a bit of an excessive test. I don't even know why it's there, but you know. Especially because I don't do anything if in fact there is no width and no height, so it's a bit redundant, but pass me that, please. So let's move on to the next bit, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a byte array for our raw data. I'm going to call it icon stream, and the first thing that I'm going to do is going to define how large it is. Now it's going to be icon width cast as an int, because that way Unity is happy, multiplied by icon height. So like I said before, it would be 256 times 256, and then times 4. Okay, so why times 4? Well, because the picture data will arrive to you with the red, green, blue, and alpha channel information. Okay, so 4 channels, you need to account for those in your data stream. And that's why you call the get image RGBA from Steam Utils, and you feed it the ID so it knows what to go look for, you feed it the icon stream so it knows what to populate, and you tell it how large this is. Now you could have also said icon stream.length. I just went with this. Now next I create a texture. Like I said before, you could have a sprite, you could have all sorts of other settings, that'll be up to you. In my case it's a texture. Okay, so I create a texture, I call it downloaded icon, and I instantiate it as a new one. I give it the width, I give it the height, I give it the texture format of RGB32, so red, green, blue, and alpha with a color depth of 32. And I don't set any mip maps, right? I'm not interested in mip maps in this case. Now what do? I load raw texture data, which is an internal function of the texture 2D class, and I feed it my stream. And then I apply. Okay, so now I actually have a texture I can use called downloaded icon. And I assign it to my material. And one thing that I have to do that is fascinating and caught me by surprise the first time I saw it is I need to invert the y-axis. And the reason why I have to do that is because the picture is returned mirrored on the y-axis. I'm sure there's a good reason for that. I haven't really bothered investigating what's going on there. I just went with the cheap solution of inverting it. It's really up to you how you solve it. You could rotate, you could do all sorts of things. So that's how I did it. And there we go. And this is essentially the code of what you saw happen in game before. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, a few more things that need to be done. I'm going to ignore these two functions. They are not that interesting for you. There is one, though, that is extremely important, which is reconcile with saved profile. Now, one thing that I need to mention off the bat is that my game does not have cloud saves, and I don't intend to look into how to deal with those, at least at the moment. And there's a reason for it. While your stats are kept locally and perhaps you may grow attached to your stats, the thing that is the most important, most likely to most users, is what they've unlocked. Now in my game, like in the popular game The Binding of Isaac, for instance, all unlockables are directly dependent or related to achievement. In other words, to achievements. In other words, every single achievement unlocks a thing for your characters. Okay, so that means that if I go and check which achievements are unlocked, even if my local save files aren't present, I can reconcile my local unlocked stuff with what theoretically has been unlocked according to the Steam achievement. So technically speaking, in a very much roundabout way, I have cloud saves, kinda. Okay, so let's take a look at how I do this. So we're gonna go to my extras manager, which is a singleton that I have for my game that manages all of my challenges and achievements and all sorts of stuff. Now, what we wanna look at is we wanna look at the unlock achievement code function. Now all of this is old code and we don't need to worry about it. The only thing that you want to see here is that I unlock certain things based on achievement, I unlock certain other things based on other achievements, and then in the end I save my local save file, right? Not my cloud save file. I don't have cloud save files. I don't even know how that's done, at least at this moment. Now one thing that I've added to integrate it with Steam is that I've gone and checked if Steam is enabled, essentially. So I check if Steam achievements, well, if my Steam achievements is enabled, is active as an object, because remember in my awake it becomes inactive if Steam isn't enabled, right? So if it's active, I also unlock the achievement on Steam. Now let's take a brief look at this. Now remember, I need to feed it a string ID, right? So I feed it achievement underscore, then the ID that I have in my extras, which happens to be an int. Okay, I check if the int is lower than 10, then I add a 0. Why? Because otherwise you would be achievement 0 as opposed to achievement 00, right? So you need to pay attention to these details. And then I add the ID as a string. So in this particular case, let's say we want to unlock achievement 3, for instance. It'll be 3 is lower than 10, therefore add a 0. Okay, so achievement 0, 3. Awesome. And then, as you've seen already, the achievement gets unlocked. Fantastic. Now, all of these get unlocked and everything like that. Now, one thing that we also do, I can't remember how often, but let me take a look. Reconcile. Should be somewhere here. Okay, there it is. It's in start. I'll reconcile with save profile. Right there. So inside start, I'll call this particular function on my extras manager. Okay, so every time the game is booted, I immediately check that everything matches. And say, for example, if I have more achievements unlocked on Steam than I have locally, then I'll update all of the local stuff, right? Vice versa, I'll update all of the, I'll downgrade my local stuff, okay? Now, that doesn't imply that if you play offline, your Steam achievements aren't saved. Those are still saved on your Steam information. So that's going to reconcile itself with the Steam servers once you go online, and then that's going to reconcile with my game. At least I hope that that's how it works. I'm not really sure. I should probably test this. Anyway, okay, so this is done. Well, I've kind of explained it, but hopefully that makes sense. All right, so now what we're going to take a look at, just to conclude this little tutorial, is we're going to take a look at my controls, because we want to be able to debug this stuff. So I have some debug controls, and I have a big debug for Steam boolean, which in my update method, it calls debug input if it's activated. So let's go take a look at debug input right here. Okay, so let's see. If I press F5 and debug for Steam is enabled, I am going to unlock my achievement Steam unlock counter. Now, what is unlock counter? It's just a number that goes up. So I've made it cyclical. So every time I press F5, right, I'm going to unlock 00, then 01, 02, and so on. And I run reconciliation every time here. Okay, I also request a sound just so I know that I've pressed it. F6 does the opposite. It locks my achievements again in a sequence, starting from 0, going up all the way to 49. And if either of these reaches 49, it resets back to 0, so it wraps back. These are my wrappings back to 0. Both F7 is for my setting achievements, and F8 is for my removing achievements, and this we'll ignore because it's not directly related to this. Okay, so let's go to Unity. Let's go to my infrastructure controls, and I'm going to enable debug for Steam. Now I'm going to hit play. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go back into that achievement menu that you saw before. Okay, I'm going to skip all of this. This is just showing you how to test this a little bit. So profile, achievements. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press F5. Oh, what happened there? Well, what happened there is that this guy turned on. And you see, let's do another one. And you see, I got my little pop-up. That's because the callbacks are being called. And you can click it and check it out and everything. Okay. Oh, sorry, lady. And you'll notice, by the way, that these, for example, let's take this one, right? The mustache. You see that it's currently sort of like the locked version. And now I'm going to press F5, go back on it, and it's the unlocked version. What does this mean? You have no control as to whether you're going to get the unlocked or the locked version of the achievement picture. That's because it's automatic. You can't really choose that from Steam. Okay, but there you go. As you can see, it's working. And now what I'm going to press is F6 a couple of times. Now you'll see that this didn't update correctly. I'm going to go back to the menu and back to profile and achievements, and now they're gone. Okay. Now one thing that you'll notice is that in Steam, it thought for a moment that I had unlocked some, and now it thinks that I didn't. Okay. Now I want to demo you something. I'm going to unlock a couple. There we go. Okay, so I've unlocked these. Let's check Steam. Yeah, it's updating correctly. Okay, so it's updating correctly. What we need to do now is we need to go back to Unity over here, and I'm going to quickly disable all of them. Okay, go back and stop the code. Now you'll notice that nothing seems to have happened. Now I go back to here, and nothing is changing. And the reason why nothing is changing is because I didn't call update stats on my locking the achievements, right? So the callback isn't working properly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, I'm not going to save this actually, because I don't care to save what I've just done. I'm going to hit don't save, close the project, and now you'll notice that this goes back to blue and all of my achievements are gone. And that's how it works. Alright, so I think that's sufficient for this time. I hope you found this useful. let me know in the comments. Leave a like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to. And the best way to help me, if you thought that this was helpful to you and helped you make your game, is to go ahead and purchase a copy of OVO Smash and maybe play it for a little. It may not be right up your alley, you may be too old for this, but if you have kids, I found that it's very fun. You can also check out my trailer for the deathmatch that I did with my own kids, where we're having a blast just playing it. So, hope this was useful to you, and I'll see you next time in my languages tutorial. Stay tuned.